I'm talking about Daniel Zellhuber versus Francisco Prado. This, Bobby, is my Nuck If You Buck fight of the night.
Oh, there we go.
Zellhuber, amazing gas tank, but he's got low hands. Boxing heavy hands that are fast, so he can really throw. He's got good movement and a great chin. Looking at Prado, this dude is just a dog. Like, he's had 6 fights since 2022. Just in the last, 2 years, this dude is just, like, running through people. You go on SureDog, Tapology, whatever. You look back 6 fights, you're, like, early, or, like, 2000, maybe late 2019, 2018, 2017. This dude's got 6 fights since 2022. He wins by just having that dog in him. He's patient. Some of these fights, I'm not going to lie, he doesn't have a much UFC experience. It looks like they cleaned the chicken shit out of a cockfighting cage and shoved him in. So I don't know the level of competition this guy's faced. I really don't. I worry about Prado. He's not good on his back. He's not a grappler. All he's going to do is he's going to come in and just try to box the hell out of you. And in a boxing match, we're looking at Zellhuber with a 77-inch reach versus a guy with 69-inch reach, which is nice, but that's an 8-inch reach advantage. That's crazy. So this guy's not going to want to stand up. He's going to get pieced together. By the way, he's got Prado's got great striking defense. The only problem is he defends the strikes with his face. Zellhuber, I think he's going to piece him up. I think Prado might have enough of it and try to shoot a takedown where he's worse than Zellhuber. And I just see Zellhuber being able to really control him from there. I don't know how this one ends. I really don't. I don't know if it's a sub or what. With Zellhuber, I would just go the money line, which is disgusting. It's almost in the 300s. It's like minus 270 right now. I'm leading the decision at plus 175. I could see TKO. I could see sub. I could see it being any way. Zellhuber, I don't consider him being one of those really elite guys with like Rosas we were just speaking about. I don't think his jiu-jitsu, I don't even know what he's trained in. I haven't seen that aspect of him. I really don't know how good it is. And against a guy like Prado, I don't know. I just see Zellhuber winning. What do you think, Bobby?
This fight was kind of a mind fuck for me
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons. The first one was I know neither one of these guys before I started doing research, had never even heard of them in the UFC. And Daniel Zellhuber is the whitest name I've ever heard before in my entire life. So imagine my surprise when I go on Tapology and see this olive-skinned, chiseled Adonis staring back at me. And instead of this, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed little youth dude, it was quite the shock. That was the first shock I had, was not the mental image I had in my head when I heard the name Daniel Zellhuber.
Yeah.
Definitely was not expecting a Mexican gentleman, let's just say that. And the other one was, Francisco Prado, his highlights in Samurai Fight House, the regional scene that he was on before making his way to the UFC, definitely made me a little tentative. But I looked at the odds, and my second shock was looking at the odds and how this is the greatest discrepancy in odds, I believe, on damn near the whole card. Zellhuber at minus 270, Prado at plus 220 currently. So I was asking myself, well, why are the odds so drastically far apart for two guys who, honestly, both of them, I don't really see much coming from them in the future type thing. So that was my second shock after the whole name thing. And then, you pretty much are spot on. It's a very tough fight, especially if you are leaning towards Zellhuber. I will say this, though. He is coming off a Anaconda choke submission win from last September in round 2. So at least he does have that very, very fresh in his fighting repertoire. Other than that, though, Calf Slicer's a sub, but that was back in 2020 on the regional scene. Triangle from 2017 in the regional scene, and then the rest, some punches and knee finishes sprinkled in there, a few decisions. So, he does have subs on his record, and at least he does have a UFC sub. So it's tough. I definitely agree with you that he has the edge over Prado, because that was the first thing I noticed about Prado, was a dynamic striker in his Samurai Fight House win over Jose Barrios Vargas. Very willing to just throw everything, throw wheel kicks, throw spinning heel kicks, just whatever he can throw. He was definitely very dynamic and willing to do it, which is nice to see somebody who is so flowy, the flow state that Conor McGregor talks about, nice and loose, and all the other, nonsense he shouted Artem Lobov on that series of the Contender Series about staying loose to get the knockout and all that. So it's good to see stuff like that, because when you're not as tense, you are willing to try things that, keep your opponent guessing, keep them off guard. They're not expecting it, giving them different looks, things of that nature. But I mean, overall, yeah, it's very hard to tell kind of where he's at in his young UFC career, because this is only going to be his third fight overall in the UFC. And I'm also very concerned that he, in his debut, so I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt since it was his debut, lost to Jamie Mullarkey by unanimous decision February last year, because Jamie Mullarkey, while a tough, durable guy who always puts on exciting shows, is not exactly good himself, and is honestly, unfortunately, probably not going to be long for the UFC with all the losses he has, and some of those coming by brutal finishes. So that in and of itself is a concern for me, to lose to Jamie Mullarkey. Once again, not trying to do MMA math, but these guys are young in their career, so I got to draw from something somewhere. Something that did impress me, though, was for all the hype Ottman Azaitar and his brother have had, even though he's now on a skid and himself looking at being cut from the UFC. Still was nice to see that Prado has a finish over Ottman Azaitar by punches in round one. That was a nice indication to me of his staying power, because Azaitar is a guy who is highly touted for years now, since 2019, hasn't fought much, very inactive. As you mentioned, Prado, it's very rare that you have a guy with 6 fights in, a year, when there's guys in the UFC like Azaitar that barely fight once a year at this rate, and they're going to age out before they can even get kicked out at this point. But anyway, I just hate the money line also. You already mentioned it's disgusting. So I'm going to be a little ballsy and say Zellhuber by sub at plus 500, pretty much exactly how you described it. Prado's going to get gassed, and he's going to start shooting for takedowns. In the words of Nate Diaz, oh, you thought you were a wrestler, and he's going to get choked out. So, yeah, plus 500 Zellhuber sub, just to take the sting off that disgusting money line. I think it's going to play out exactly how you described it. There we go.
I love hearing that.
You better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover all spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome to our podcast. Better in Green.